Okay, in the previous lesson, I reviewed the first rule about commas, which is in a list of particulars of 3 or more, you put a comma after all of them except the last. And then the second rule that we've been focusing on primarily has been put a comma after a transitional phrase. Right now, we're going to kind of do a test for understanding. So the question that we always ask, and I like doing this because if you can correct other people's sentences, then you have actually mastered the content to a point where you're able to teach it. So I always ask the question, what is wrong with the following sentences, if anything at all? So we start with number 1. After school, there will be a party in the gym, a potluck in the cafeteria, and an award presentation in the auditorium. So what's wrong with that sentence? Number 2. Gary, Tom, and Bill went on a fishing trip to Minnesota. Number 3. On the other hand, your inability to accomplish the task may be a reflection of bad teaching, lack of focus, or laziness. So what's wrong with the sentence? Number 4. Nonetheless, I'll be going on the quest despite your misgivings. So what is wrong with number 4? Number 5. All in all, this has been a good day. Number 6. In addition, my argument is further supported by the research on fossils. And number 7. Overall, there has been an increase in better grades, attendance, and participation in sports. So what is wrong with number 7? Okay, going back to number 1 then. We're going to apply our rules. Now, so far, we've mastered 2 rules. One has to do with the list of particulars. The other one is the transitional phrase. So number 1, after school, there will be a party in the gym, a potluck in the cafeteria, and an award presentation in the auditorium. The first error that we ought to detect is that there should be a comma after the phrase after school. This right here is the transitional phrase. But do you see that there is more than one error in this sentence? With that being said, we have a list of particulars. There will be a party in the gym, a potluck in the cafeteria, and an award presentation in the auditorium. The only problem is that we have forgotten to put the comma after the word cafeteria. In this case, we're applying the rule about a list of particulars of 3 or more linked with and. Now let's go over number 2. Gary, Tom, and Bill went on a fishing trip to Minnesota. In this case, the comma should fall after Tom. There's a pause there. We're applying the first rule, which is about the list of particulars of 3 or more. Moving on to number 3. The first error in number 3 is that there should be a comma after on the, and we're actually missing the word other hand. So, my bad. On the other hand, your inability to accomplish the task may be a reflection of bad teaching, lack of focus, or laziness. Now we're applying the transitional phrases rule. Yet, there's more than one error here. Your inability to accomplish the task may be a reflection of bad teaching, lack of focus, or laziness. So we've got a list of 3 or more here. Where should the first comma go? After teaching. So we have a natural pause there. May be a reflection of bad teaching, lack of focus, comma, or laziness. And in both cases, we're applying the rule of the list of particulars of 3 or more linked with and or or. Or is another one of those coordinating conjunctions that we talked about. And or are the 2 main ones. All right, let's go over number 4. Nonetheless, I will be going on the quest despite your misgivings. The correct answer for number 4 is there are no errors. This is a good transitional phrase. This is our pause after it, denoted by the comma. And so number 4 is good to go. Number 5. All in all, this has been a good day. The answer for number 5 is that there are no errors. Once again, we see the transitional phrase. We have the comma. There's a natural pause there. Number 5 is good to go. Number 6. In addition, there should be a comma after addition. My argument is further supported by the research on fossils. Once again, we have the addition transitional phrase here. We have a pause after it. The comma should be right there, but it wasn't. And therefore, we've made it correct. And then number 7, you can tell by the squiggly green lines underneath that Microsoft Word doesn't like the sentence. Overall, comma, there has been an increase in better grades, attendance, and participation in sports. The correct answer is that we should have a comma after attendance. In this case, we're applying the list of particulars of 3 or more. Now, I know that some people argue that this one that is highlighted, this comma, is optional, but I disagree. And in my English class, I am God, so we do it the way that I want to do it. But I think grammatically speaking, it makes perfect sense, because if you apply a similar rule across all of the items in the list of particulars, you have consistency in the punctuation accordingly. And that's why I think you should do it. There's a very logical answer for that. The final thing that I'm going to need you to do, and this is a good exercise for anybody, is the final challenge is to write a paragraph in which you use transitional phrases. In the paragraph or focus correction area, I expect a minimum of 4 transitional phrases. And ideally, if you could have some addition, some contrast, transitional phrases, or a sequential one, things like time. So addition, just for example, is in addition. Add, also. Contrast is yet. On the other hand, conversely, in contrast, etc. And then sequence, first, second, next, finally, etc. Those are just some examples. So it's one thing to know the rules. It's another thing to correct sentences using it. It's another to be able to write effectively using them.